Just before we get into maybe the meat of the webinar, I'll just quickly sort of set the scene for what you can expect for today. So this session is really about just giving you some practical insights and forward-looking view on how customer experience in retail is changing and evolving. We're going to focus on how AI and modern customer experience platforms are changing the way retailers design, operate, and scale their customer experiences. But not only that, we'll be sharing perspectives from both sort of the technology and delivery, with all of that grounded in what we're seeing really work within retail environments within Zendesk. So it should be a really exciting call today. And once again, yeah, great to have you guys all on the call. Just before we get into some of the questions to Kaan and Adam, a little bit of housekeeping. We've got some consultants on the call. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today. So if you've got any questions today throughout the webinar, please feel free to send them into the group chat. I'll be monitoring the chat as we go through, and I've saved us around 10 minutes near the end of the presentations where we can get through and answer all the questions you may have as well. On top of that, this webinar will be recorded. So if you know anyone who maybe has missed it, or if you'd like to share it with some of your teammates, you should receive an email from myself or the team with a link to the recording. So really encourage you to share that around for anyone who might be particularly interested in it as well. So I think without further ado, let's get into it. I think a good point to maybe start for both of you guys is obviously you've got heaps of experience and you've worked with some of the world's largest retailing brands. I'd be interested to hear from both of you a little bit about what has shifted the most in customer expectations over the last 12 to 18 months, particularly on the sort of post-purchase side of things. So I'll open up to you guys for that one there.
I'll let you kick off that one, Adam.
Sure. It's an interesting time. I've been working in and around the customer support space for, I hate to say it, but 25 plus years now. And I think the last, year and a half are probably some of the, most interesting times ever. I'd say if I were to think about what changed the most over the last year, probably the fact that customers now don't hate AI quite as much as they did 12 months ago. Um, but seriously, I think it's the opposite. I think, brands have now started to embrace AI as a must. If we go back 12, 18 months ago, the conversations that we were collectively having around, experimenting with AI or thinking about what you could do with automated resolution, it was a real uphill battle. I think the last 12 to 18 months, it sort of turned itself on its head, and it's now an expectation that automated resolution is a key part of every retailer's playbook. And then it's, what am I going to do different? What am I going to do on top? How am I going to get more out of these? What I think I'm most surprised about, maybe in a counter intuitive perspective, is what it's done for some of the core metrics that a lot of CX organizations have been hanging on to for a long time. So whether that's ticket handle time, if that's CSAT scores, if that's initial ticket deflection scores, the whole mix has changed in the last year. And we've even seen things like, CSAT scores going down and people saying, hey, I tried AI and what happened? And the reality is that, in bringing in a lot more automated resolution into there, at the point where your consumers are now interacting with your human agents, the expectations have been raised significantly. They've already gone through all of the easy things to automate your way out of. And now the expectation is the humans in the loop need to be doing an enormously better job to help resolve those issues faster, to provide more innovative resolutions to them, and to add something else to the mix. And quite frankly, I think that's probably the biggest opportunity that we see is, automation, great. How do we lean in, do that even better? And how do we significantly enhance agent efficiency and customer experience when they're dealing with humans in the loop?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, really. I completely agree with what you're saying. I guess from my perspective, I think the biggest shift, particularly in post-purchase, is that, customers now expect every interaction with the brand to be context aware by default. And it's super interesting because what we're seeing with clients we work with is a fundamental change actually in expectations. Like I said, the expectation and the new baseline is customers expect brands to understand who they are, their history, their intent, why they're reaching out across every post-purchase touch point, and even across every channel for that matter, in all honesty, whether it's, social messaging or emails. So consistency and context for me across the entire post-purchase journey has become the new baseline for modern day CX. And I think it's a step in the right direction, in all honesty, something that we'll talk a little bit more about in detail today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And Adam, 25 years of experience is quite impressive. You must have started pretty early. I think you mentioned to me you were only early 30s last time we spoke. So got on the
That
industry
is correct.
on that front.
20s, early 20s.
Early 20s, sorry. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, guys. I wanted to touch a little bit on the Zendesk CX Trends report. Obviously, it mentioned that AI has now become one of the differentiators for service teams. But what we've seen, I'm sure Adam, Kaan, you've seen as well, is a lot of them still feel very stuck. I'd be interested to hear a little bit about what is the gap between how retailers think they're using AI versus how the leaders in this gap are actually using it.
Yeah, I think that's a good question and probably a lot to unpack there. Um, I guess for us, we believe in the concept of being AI ready, and that can mean different things for different businesses. We consistently see the gap when organizations kind of jump into AI without clearly understanding what they're trying to achieve, whether that's expectations, aligning with reality, and understanding also that AI adoption is actually a journey. It's not an overnight solution. Um, and the biggest shift we've seen, and actually Zendesk do a good job of articulating this in the annual CX Trends report, is the emphasis towards contextual intelligence. I think they mentioned something like 83% of consumers still believe experiences should be better than they are today, and contextual intelligence is really the missing link. Um, I don't want to use kind of like lingo like contextual intelligence without kind of jumping into like a bit more detail around simplifying it and what does it actually mean. And a high level, it means AI that can access your brand knowledge, customer history, operational systems, and probably most importantly, procedures and processes that you operate, day to day as a business, not just generate generic answers left, right, and center. Uh, I guess,
You know, you know, yeah, I was just
yeah,
going to build on that. And I think for me, anytime I see, trends reports that are coming out and Zendesk's are, always top notch, I'm always struck by a handful of, things in there that are statistically out of the norm. I think this
yeah,
year's report is something like 85% of retail leaders, brand leaders, say that a missed first contact resolution is the end game. And the fact that that's now like a top of mind moment and a driver for AI is super interesting. It kind of goes hand with hand in a lot of the things we've been espousing about for the last number of years. There's stats out there that for younger consumers, like Gen Y, 2/3 of a Gen Y consumer say a single bad interaction with a brand and they'll never purchase from them again. And
mm,
you put that together with, whether it's the Shopify effect or the Shark Tank effect or whatever you want to call it, the idea that consumers are more willing to try new brands than they've ever been in the history of the world. Historically for 20 odd years in retail, it was like trusted brands who had been around forever, who had great quality
yeah,
manufacturing. That's where you trust. And now it's, oh, great. I saw a TikTok ad. That product looks cool. It seems like there's a whole bunch of other people excited about it. I'll give it a shot. And so you have this really juxtaposed world going on where consumers will try anything. And at the same time, one bad interaction and they're done. And that's often your best case scenario. Your worst case is one bad interaction and they're done. And by the way, they have a really huge following or a bunch of friends, and now it's worse than just their own bad experience. So I think there's some stuff in here that for me is, really telling about the state of the overall industry from a retail e-com side.
Yeah, but everything you just unpacked there, it's so important because the customer service, right, has traditionally been seen as a cost center. And that's largely because it's reactive, right, by nature. Ticket in, ticket out, the whole Wismo use case, I've got a problem with my delivery, etc. Historically, it's actually been quite difficult to remove and cut out that noise without compromising the service quality. Um, and to kind of what you're echoing there, now AI and customer experience can kind of be seen as a little bit of a differentiator for brands. And contextual intelligence is kind of what's going to empower that kind of momentum, really. So when you think about it, if you're able to cut out the noise without compromising the service quality, exactly what you've just said there, Adam, because buyers are so much more inclined to kind of, leave a brand and go somewhere else, all of a sudden you've got all this freed up capacity and you can actually start to think strategically around your resources. How can we differentiate things like our post-purchase journey? How do we identify and understand who is this customer to our business and how can we leave our blueprint on them as opposed to kind of keeping it super transactional?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Kaan. And Alex, I've just seen you've sent a message into the chat. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, encourage everyone to keep sending in any questions they have. We'll get through to them around 10 minutes to go, but I'll make sure to prioritize that one through. So thank you for sending that one in. And you actually touched on it a little bit there, Kaan, sort of that shift from reactive to proactive and being a differentiator. If we could maybe focus on that a little bit more, what does the move from proactive engagement really look like for retailers, especially when they're sort of integrating their AI real-time data with all of the systems out there?
Yeah, look, I think when we talk about reactive and proactive, right, think of the stuff your support teams are generally doing day in, day out. The whole tracking of orders, actioning refunds, things of that nature. And when we talk about proactive, we talk about kind of like driving higher value experiences. So think along the lines of, assisted selling, concierge level of support, retention, and, conversations of that nature, basically. So what we've actually done today, we've built out a bit of a flow for you, and I'm going to share my screen in a second. But before I do, I just wanted to kind of give you a bit of a snapshot of what you're going to be looking at today. Because we're going to go through a couple use cases, touching on how you can kind of shift a reactive workflow into a proactive one by leveraging all of that retail back office data and implementing your process and procedure within the AI agent's capability. So I'm going to share my screen and you just let me know when you can see my screen. Right, you can see my screen here?
Yeah.
Right. So I had some fun with this last night. Quirky name for a retail brand that specializes in women's wear, Maison Zendesk. I'm sure people in the audience would have come up with a much better name, but um, basically what I wanted to show you here is from the lens of a customer, right? And when we talk about, the shift from reactive to proactive, in terms of AI capability, it can mean a couple things. It can mean a bit of a mix of RAG agent-based intelligence, dialogue flows, and agentic AI capabilities. And I guess in a nutshell, to kind of give you a snapshot of what you're looking at, this is a context-aware AI agent that can both retrieve the right knowledge and act autonomously within defined business processes and procedures, not just respond to questions. The reason why agnoStack is super important behind the scenes is because we've actually unified the whole retail back office system within agnoStack. So as a AI agent and a retailer, you now have a 360 view of who is customer across all of these systems. And we're going to leverage that data today to provide, like I said, more of a proactive experience. And I'm going to kick things off just by asking a couple questions to give you a bit of an idea. As I mentioned, knowledge is a super important piece. So think of the questions you'd get day in, day out. What is your refund policy? What colors does this particular bag come in? This is like a prime example of where you start on your AI journey, and we talk about self-service. But that AI agent needs knowledge, and in this scenario, we've provided it as so. Um, as a customer now, you could simply go through a couple examples, and I'm actually going to go through a returns process. Just before I do, I just want to emphasize something. You can see the way I've kind of designed this. This is Ola, the AI agent. And conversationally, you'll see throughout the whole demo today, it's going to stay on brand. It's going to match sentiment. It's going to talk in our brand tone of voice, really. And it really does become more about design rather than capability with the AI agent. We've got a couple examples here. You know, someone wants to book a virtual styling session. They want to explore new collections. They want to find the nearest boutique. These could very easily be, you know, I want to check my order. I want to speak to a stylist, whatever that looks like, basically. Experience is now very much about design as opposed to technically, are you able to do things? Um, so I'm going to jump into it, give you a bit of an example of what that can look like. And I'm going to say, great, I'd like to make a return. And I guess first cab off the rank for Ola is she needs to identify who we are. Now, this can be done with, you know, order numbers or email addresses. In this scenario, I'm just going to use an email address. And what Ola is going to do is she's going to stick to our process and procedures. She's going to look at the agnoStack API that has all of this retail back office data to then pull the appropriate records of order history for this person. So we've had a look at the ecom data. We've got a couple, you know, order numbers here. We've got the metadata relating to the item, date it was, you know, ordered, delivered, the amount that was paid, even the payment gateway that was used. And you can see this person has actually ordered a couple things: address, glasses. It's probably my wife, but I don't want to look at my credit card. But so basically, from a user perspective, though, it can be as simple as
That's definitely your fanny pack that was ordered there, by the way.
yeah. I don't want to say anything. I was trying to. I totally wear these glasses, but from the user perspective, though, it's really as simple as kind of selecting the order, and the AI agent is going to continue going through the process, just understanding, okay, now we need to cross-reference that with policy. Does it fit our returns framework? So you can see this return here was ordered on the 1st of the 2nd, delivered on this date, and we've got a 14-day policy within arrival, and we've actually gone to dynamically check that and let the customer know, great, we've verified everything, you're fit for a return, would you like me to proceed? Now, in this scenario, you could very easily just go to, you know, return the item, send out the prepaid ship, you know, the label for them to kind of, you know, put in a parcel and send off. But the way we've designed our process here and what we think best practice is we want to dive in a little bit deeper and understand, okay, why is this person returning this item? And I'm just going to say I didn't like the color. Now, this is going to enrich any kind of reporting on the back end as well. So as a business, if you want to see how many returns you're getting at a SKU level, like a product level, you'd be able to kind of report on all of that. But the AI, you can see so far, it's doing all the legwork and it's quite conversational. It's actually even using puns throughout, you know, in real life. Basically, what the step is in this process now, this is where we're going to shift from reactive to proactive. So again, by looking at the agnoStack API, we've got access to our product catalog, and we're going to be able to say to this customer, okay, I know you want to return this bag because you didn't like the color. And I can see in our catalog, we've actually got a new release of bags in. We also can look at your marketing data and your preferences in our, you know, CRM or your Klaviyo platform as an example to understand what do you like and what don't you like. Now, before we go straight to returning, we could also issue a credit and just show you some of the bags that are available this season, basically. Did you want to proceed? Now, if I were to just let the AI know, yes, I want to, again, it can go one step further and just say, okay, great. Is there a particular type of product you're interested in seeing more so, like a category of product, or do you want to just kind of keep it to bags? You want to see everything? It's actually saying it's basically browsing is practically cardio, so it's definitely taking a page out of out of my book. I'm just going to say in this scenario here, I just want to look at bags. Now, what that's done, it's had a look at the catalog, it's had a look at my preferences, all via the agnoStack API, because we've consolidated all that data in the retail back office to understand this is what we think this customer will like. And we're actually trying to, the AI agent is trying to save the revenue as opposed to keeping it transactional and returning. Now, as the customer, I've got a couple, a couple different options here. I've got 3 bags. I can, tell the AI agent I love it. I can even go through straight to an agent, talk to a stylist, many different kind of calls to action. In this scenario, for the sake of the use case, I'm going to say, I love it. And the AI agent's going to come back to me and say, okay, that's great. Now, I can actually build out your cart for you and send you the payment link based on your previous orders. So let me do the legwork for you. Let me send you out the payment link, your cart, and we'll get stuck into it. And you can just do what you need to do on your end, and we'll get things moving basically. Probably at this point in the conversation, I just want to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works because this is in reality, this may come up quite often. I need to know as a customer a little bit more detail. Like, am I going to be out of pocket for this thing? Or like, when do you actually return my money? Is it once you inspect? Like, what does that look like? So I'm going to pose a question at this point in the conversation, and it's going to give me a bit of a snapshot as to what the process is. So you can see all that contextual knowledge, the whole retail back office information, the knowledge we're providing in terms of policies, procedures. It's all being used in conjunction to solve that use case. And with the power of agnoStack's enterprise API capability, we finally got a 360 view of customer, and we can do these things. Now, just to kind of finish things off, to give you an example, at this point in the conversation, I want to go ahead. Like, let's do this thing. I want to buy the bag. Let's do it. Now, what the AI agent has done in this scenario, again, looked at that whole retail back office data, and it said, great, we know you have, a couple bags with us, and just for the inconvenience, we've applied a 10% discount off the purchase of the bag. Here is your link to checkout. Let me know if there's anything else you need. From a customer perspective, they've got everything they need to go and transact as so. So when we're talking like the shift from reactive to proactive, this is kind of like once you free up that resourcing and you cut out the noise of all the things coming in, it'll enable businesses and brands to actually think like this and say to themselves, how do we want to design these experiences?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Kaan. I would have loved that return policy, I think, recently. As a man who's just returned 2 putters in the last 2 months, I think saving myself from the calls and trying to explain why am I returning this putter to a person and having to look down and say, oh, it's faulty instead of it's the person behind it.
It's always the putter, not the golfer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Give me a chat bot where I can say that too. He didn't judge me at all. But I think that was a great demo, actually showing a lot of the customer facing features that are built into Zendesk utilizing agnoStack. Adam, I'd be interested to flick over to you to hear a little bit about some of the other use cases for agnoStack when it comes to maybe the tickets generated and trying to provide that personalized response and how we can scale beyond some of the features Kaan may have just shown.
Absolutely. Really cool stuff. It's amazing to see when, you have the ability to take the agnoStack API that gives you access to the full retail back office. What can you do with it to really unlock amazing experiences? And I think it's more timely than ever, for stat geeks out there like myself. There's a few things that happened. COVID in general really changed the game for the entire industry. Everybody talks about kind of the big leap in sales and what the sustainability on that has been. The piece I'm actually more mesmerized by is the shift in post-purchase interactions. So up until probably in the last 5 years overall, retailers now have about 3 times as many touch points with a consumer after purchase than they do before. And historically, we saw a lot of spend from a retail perspective on marketing platforms, driving upper funnel activity, really leaning into commerce platforms and the conversion cycle. And we're seeing actual shift of dollars into post purchase because of that. So imagine, whereas before I had 5 touch points up front, maybe 1 or 2 after. Now we see 1 or 2 up front. I see a TikTok ad, I go to the site, I now purchase. And then you've got somewhere between 3 to 5 interactions post purchase. So each one of those really matters more now than it ever did before. Whether it's an automated interaction or whether it's a human interaction, it's really powerful stuff. So what I want to show you guys today is something that really takes this one step further. So, AI and the Zendesk built-in AI capabilities, whether it's around AI Agents Advanced or Copilot, are really impressive stuff. Beyond there, there's a ton of capabilities that you can utilize to do some things at an even further level of being proactive. Are you guys seeing my screen all right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what I want to do in here is take you through an interaction powered by the agnoStack extended messenger capabilities. So what you're seeing on the screen here, and I won't spend a ton of time, going through this piece in particular, but I know there's been some questions around here. What I actually want to do is go through a conversation. So the same as you'd have inside of a normal bot, inside of this extended widget itself. This is all using the agnoStack API, pulling in the customer's information by default, pulling in all of their order history, real-time shipping information, real-time billing information, all of that, in addition to being able to use the AI Agents Advanced piece for conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and start a conversation here. I've got an order. It didn't show up. It appears to be running late. Um, you know, Maybe you're going through the bot purgatory of just trying to get through all this. Speak to an agent. Speak to an agent. I really want some help. You're in the typical flow of what many consumers are dealing with when you've got something just as straightforward as a order running late. As you're going through that, you're now able to connect up, talk to an agent anywhere in the mix here. But what I want to do is actually take the information from here and use it to create an extended experience for the agent itself. So I've got a new, chat that just came in inside of there using agnoStack as part of the interaction itself. This is now used all of the Zendesk built-in Copilot capabilities for intelligent triage. It's identified the sentiment, very negative, high confidence. It's identified the intent in here. This is not mock-ups. This is real live AI functionality. So in that conversation we just had, it's able to pull out of there, this is the particular order that somebody needs help with. It's related to a delivery issue. The person is pretty angry. It's automatically pulled up that order inside of agnoStack. The second that the agent responded to that, that could be coming in from phone, that could be coming in from email, that could be coming in from chat, preloaded the order. All of the normal stuff that you'd expect to see inside of agnoStack. For those of you who haven't seen it, agnoStack does a ton: real-time billing info, real-time shipping info, real-time payment and transaction data, line item details, the ability to process refunds on an order, modify orders, net new, agent-assisted sales. I'm not going to go through any of that today, but if you haven't seen it and this is stuff that's of interest, happy to go through it. What I want to focus on is what can we do with AI to take this stuff one step further. So your normal interaction that you are often going through or deciding on is you have somebody who's got a order delivery is late and you're trying to decide in AI Agents Advanced, should I automate doing something like refunding their shipping? Okay. And that's actually pretty easy to do. So in AI Agents Advanced, you can call the agnoStack API. You could, identify that scenario and send them back their information. What agnoStack supports is 3 ways to extend the commerce experience in Zendesk. One is called our actionable options framework. One of them is called our extended data capabilities, and one is our brand new app extension framework that launched last week. Actionable options is probably the most powerful thing I've ever seen going on. So what happens in here, depending on what order that I'm on, there's different actions that an agent can do. So I can go ahead and share a link to the customer to their confirmation page. I can go ahead and send them an invoice. These actions change based on the status of the order. Is it paid? Is it unpaid? Is it shipped? Is it unshipped? Etc. The 2 items that you see here at the bottom are actually contextually generated using AI. So what I've done in here is I've taken the fact that for this particular customer, on the agnoStack side, I am connected into my marketing automation suite. I'm connecting into my loyalty platform. I know they have a average order size of $1,000, customer lifetime value of X. I know they're a VIP gold tier customer inside of my Revo loyalty platform. I have all of my 360 view on that customer. It's taken all of that information, plus the details on the order, plus the information that's identified by Zendesk Copilot and AI Agents Advanced, sent that as advanced context into agnoStack that you can use to generate your own custom options. In this case here, I'm using make.com as an extended AI workflow builder, but we support N8N, we support Zendesk Action Builder, we support custom AWS GCP functions. And I'm actually taking all of that context, sending it through some custom logic in here, generating it through an AI piece, and saying, I want to allow the agent to generate a promotion code for this customer or to in one click send back their shipping costs. What we can do in there, and that's a real promotion code that was generated by the context of who this customer is. So picture, because that customer has a incredibly high lifetime value of X, Y, and Z, they spend $1,000 on an order. If you had the option of refunding their shipping, and that's really easy, you can do that through the agnoStack API built into here as well. If you were to refund their shipping very quickly, as the only alternative in there, you've actually lost money. So I took somebody's shipping that was on there and I refunded it to them in one click, or the system itself used AI to be smart enough to generate a promotion link for 10% off their next purchase. Now you're gaining $9,000 in revenue. They spend 10 grand each time. Instead of giving them back their $27, you gave them back an offer for 10% off. You can use this to really completely change the interaction model. So just a very quick example, the idea of what you could send back inside of the extension model or inside of our extended data capabilities to integrate with NetSuite, order management systems, internal ERPs, etc. Super powerful. But the idea of bringing AI into the fold to do something one more on top, that's where I think the real power is. Use the whole retail back office, integrate agnoStack into AI Agents Advanced, and then go one step further. As your humans are dealing with the higher order problems, using that advanced context capabilities to further empower your agents to do some really powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely a game changer. There's certain scenarios, like it's all well and good having data you can look at as an agent, right? But it's like, what do you do with that data? And also, when you do things with that data, you're often having to manually do things with it. So you guys have put yourself in a situation where, like you said, it's a bit of a game changer. Let the AI do the reasoning with you. You tell the AI what it can and can't do, what logic it should use, and on the back of that, it's doing the legwork. So it's super impressive.
Yeah, very cool. As a sucker for promo codes as well, that would 1,000,000% work on me. I end up spending double anytime I get sent one. Um, awesome. I think we're doing quite well on time as well. So I think we might have chance for maybe one more question before we head over to a bit of a Q&A section. We've had a good interaction there. So thank you once again, everyone. Just to open this up to both of you guys, what are some just quick and fast wins retailers can expect when they unify sort of their back office for customer experience?
Again, you can take that one first, Adam.
Sure. I think, if I were to look at what are the number one and number two things I would do as a retailer, day one, enable intelligent triage. Obviously, that's, part and parcel for anybody who's starting to use AI across their adoption curve. But what you can get out of that for the, significant number of automated intents that Zendesk can identify, sentiment analysis, language analysis, that stuff's really powerful. As soon as you have, any of that in place, bringing in automated entity detection into there, you've now completely changed the game for the context that your human agents have. And then using that alongside tools like agnoStack or, many others across the ecosystem. That's the biggest one for me. It takes almost no time to set up. You can get, the basic intelligent triage up and running in probably, 15 minutes. You can get entity detection running in under an hour. You can get agnoStack running in under an hour. And the idea that, in essentially a single workday, you could completely transform, how your agents, both from a automated self-deflection side and your human agents interact in the retail space.
Yeah. Not even to talk about like the efficiency gains, when you do something like that. But just from a business perspective, I guess my perspective would be you're now able to report on all of those things. And you can't really self-serve unless you understand your data and what you're doing, in those workflows. So I'm kind of echoing what Adam is saying. To me, that is kind of first cab off the rank, understanding what customers are asking you, what you're doing to solve their problems. And then on the back of that, my suggestion would be finding opportunity to self-serve as some of those inquiries, obviously depending on the use cases. Yeah.
Yeah, the other one I'd add on here, I know you only asked for one, Jack, but just the idea of, moving from a cost center to a profit center, doing agent assisted sales, automated agent attribution built in. It's such a game changer. It's one of those where it doesn't have to mean how do I, retrain my support agents to become salespeople, but the idea of, while I'm on a conversation with a customer, what can I do to upsell, cross sell, handle replacement orders, add one more item onto them in a seamless fashion. That one, taking a little bit more time on the setup side, but so game changing just in the
Mm.
role of a CX organization for the overall retailer.
Yeah, it kind of flips the script, doesn't it?
Big time. I mean, the fact we get all the time of, people asking about attribution and, things to that nature where it's like, their sales teams and some other portions of the organization have a ton of reporting in place just to be able to say out of the box, how much revenue are your agents recovering?
Yeah.
How much revenue are they generating? How many returns are they actually processing? How many are going back to original form of payment versus store credit? Having the purview into all that info really quickly is massive.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. And you've absolutely nailed the timing on that front. So round of applause for yourself. We do have 10 minutes left. So if you're ready for it, I'm just going to filter through some of the questions we've had throughout today. Alex, I promised you that I would get to you first. Here we go. Alex. So Alex has asked, how do you avoid AI just becoming another layer of complexity for an already stretched customer experience team?
Yeah, I can probably take that one, Adam. Firstly, good question. We see it all the time. And I think you need to start seeing AI not so much as a feature rollout, but more as a operational capability. So when you're looking at, is this thing worth doing and is it worth implementing? You need to, like I said, understand your data. And you need to understand, what are people getting in touch with you about? What are the highest volume, highest friction use cases you're dealing with? And what are you doing in terms of the workflows in the back end of how you're solving these problems? Um, Really, what I suggest to everyone, and what actually the greatest retailers do in this scenario is they kind of look at it from the lens of a simple value complexity, matrix. How can we prioritize the low effort, high impact automation first before kind of jumping into absolutely, automating anything and everything? So always looking at it from the lens of, is this thing worth doing? And having that backed by data would be how you would avoid it just being like another layer of complexity that doesn't add value, as opposed to something that actually makes the world of difference. Yeah. Adam, anything that you would add to that?
No, I think that's great. I know we've got a bunch of other questions in here. I don't want to pile on to each one. I see uh looks like we have one from Omar there if you want to grab that one, Jack.
Yeah. Omar is. Thank you, Omar. So Omar has asked, how does agnoStack actually connect to e-commerce and fulfillment systems? Is this event-driven, API, or both?
Good question, Omar. And happy to take up a side conversation specifically, on agnoStack, or if anybody wants a deep dive in here, we'll give you some good follow-ups. But I'd say at the highest level, it's API based. What's unique about agnoStack is we don't store any customer data whatsoever on our systems. So there's no PII data that's being stored anywhere, none of your agent information being stored in any of our systems, none of your customer or order data. All of your credentials are stored within, the Zendesk built-in private key store. All access to your system happens through the Zendesk built-in secure proxy. All kinds of technical mumbo jumbo. We can take up a side conversation on here, but API based, super secure, really fast to get up and running.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Adam. Um, we've got another one from Sarah. Sarah's asked, what's a realistic use case where retailers see value from AI quickly, not 6 months down the line?
I'm
Yeah,
happy to
yeah, you
take
go
that
for it. Yeah, you go for it, Adam.
to start. I mean, obviously the automation of Wismo requests is the quickest one that's out there. We probably see 20+% of inquiries that come in across retail that are, somebody just looking to check their order. And whether that's through something like I showed earlier that isn't live yet, for those of you who saw that extended agnoStack messaging widget and are wondering where that is, it's coming very soon. You are the very first audience who saw that. Um, the idea behind that is there's a bunch of actions that are pretty common across any industry. We want to make it really simple to surface those in addition to having conversations. So something like a Wismo request, you can handle that automatically, and have significantly less than 6 month impact with AI. You could also use something like the new extended messenger capabilities coming out that will allow you to surface things that are unique to your business. So out of the box, some of the stuff I showed, order history, order tracking. But let's say that you had something like you're using SweetHawk's workflow engine, and as part of that, somebody goes through a design specification review or something like that. Maybe you want to surface that to your end users and actually offload a whole bunch of ticket inquiries. You can actually go quite a bit further than even using AI to handle some of that automated deflection. So short answer in here is, for me, automated deflection for Wizmo is the quickest one,
Yeah.
or even, like I mentioned earlier, turning on intelligent triage.
Yeah. And just to add to that, like if you're a retailer in today's day and age, really, and you're dealing manually with that whole Wizmo workflow, echoing what Adam says in that scenario, because the amount of tickets or inquiries you'd be getting relating to that, when you look at like the return on investment in, having tickets created for that versus not, it's a bit of it's quite compelling.
Awesome. I think we've probably got time for about two more questions. So we've got one from Nina as well. Nina's asked, how much customization is required to support different retail workflows, e.g., a standard self-service return or exchange versus a high-touch exception case like a lost package or VIP customer escalation? And how is that maintained over time?
Yeah, I can probably take one part of that and then hand over to you, Adam. Look, Zendesk and the team at agnoStack do a really good job of simplifying complex things. Let me start there. So when we're talking about like the AI agents workspace and what that looks like and how you're building out these procedures and processes and the API connections into agnoStack, things of that nature, the foundation is built. There's no custom developer that needs to be there, basically. It really is about design and best practice, as opposed to getting someone with an unbelievable like technical level of acumen to do it. Um, I guess in the agent workspace side of things, every time that ticket is created, probably 95 of what Adam just showed you earlier, maybe even 100% of the agnoStack app is all pre-built. So that's a great thing about agnoStack, and hence why we are in such close partnership together. Is us as a business, we're in the solutions business. We need to make sure our customers, when they do things, have the best solution possible, both from a technical and a commercial perspective. And Zendesk and agnoStack help kind of connect those dots and make that possible. But Adam, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a good overview. At the end of the day, our goal after 25 years in custom software development and services world, where we would build solutions like agnoStack over and over again for some of the world's largest retailers, is we want to cover 95, 96, 98% of the use cases that typical retailers need up and running within an hour, independent of whatever your retail back office is made of. And we want to give you a whole set of extension customization tools to work with partners like Optimate or your internal IT teams to extend and customize to bring in the stuff that's actually going to make a difference for your brand. So huge foundation to move quickly and the tools to be able to extend and customize. I think that's probably the biggest one for me.
Perfect. And we've probably got time for one more question. I'll highlight, for those who we've missed, apologies, I'll highlight where you can direct them to in the next slide. But the final question I'll open up to you guys, Laura, thank you for sending that one in, is for someone early in their AI journey, what problem should they solve first to see a real impact in customer experience?
Do you want to
Kaan,
take on,
I don't
Adam?
know.
Up to you.
I was gonna say, and I know that's very similar to the question that we were just talking about earlier from Sarah. Is there anything else that came to mind on your end?
Look, I think probably my biggest recommendation in that scenario is understanding, what's going to provide value quickly for low effort. Once you understand what that looks like for you, it could be as simple as, you're getting tickets or inquiries about your returns policy, for example. Whatever that is, though, you need to kind of look at it through the lens of a value matrix. Is this worth doing? And then basically kind of make those changes. That way, you're going to kind of mitigate the risk of doing things that are just kind of like not necessarily not worth doing, but that would pay some return on investment much later on down the track. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, both of you guys. I think that is all the questions we have time for today. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for everyone who has attended. I really hope you've pulled some good insights from both Kaan and Adam. And I'm sure, well, I've personally had there's some good ones to take on board for the future. You've heard a lot from us today. We're very keen to hear from you guys as well. As part of this webinar, we're actually going to offer up sort of a 15-minute AI readiness check. Please feel free to reach out to myself. My email is provided on the screen. I'll be coordinating all of these meetings with Kaan as well as Adam and his team from agnoStack. So it'd be great to find out a little bit more about your current strategies and how we might be able to support you as we move into this new future, I suppose, of customer experience in retail. So yeah, once again, massive thank you for sending in questions, participating. Really hope you've learned something. I'll maybe hand over to Kaan and Adam just to
I want to say thanks everyone for joining. I know that we did miss a couple questions, so Adam, myself, and Jack will do a job later this afternoon of getting back to you via email to answer those. But if anything else comes up along the way, get in touch with Jack. Would be happy to help and answer some questions for you. Adam?
Nothing more to say there. I really appreciate the time. Thanks for everyone who joined. Looking forward to continuing the conversations.
It's good. You're ready for dinner over in Miami. We can see it getting darker and darker behind you. Okay, mate. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.